Happy Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. One last day before our long weekend. Today is our last review day for your IA. I am very excited. Couple things we need to touch on, but let's walk through today. So, starting at Google Classroom, your announcement will just be as normal. Your attendance assignment is your multiple choice review. The only other thing other than that is going to be your worksheet. And jump onto that Zoom call. Today I had a bunch of kids on there and we went through all the questions. So it's a really easy way to make sure you get it right. Just so you know, your attendance assignment is the multiple choice, so make sure that gets done first. If you haven't done that yet, pause me, come back to it. And then, which is again, all review on the new topics that we're talking about today. And then your second part of class will be working through the worksheet. One thing with the worksheet, question 1 asks you to complete a peppered moth game. The link is going to bring you to a page that looks like this. You're going to pick either one, right? And then you just are hunting the moths that you see. At the end, you'll find 2 different amounts, and that's what you're going to be recording in the space below. All right, so let's jump into just a quick review. Riddle time, always my favorite time of the day. What comes once a minute, twice a moment, but never in 1,000 years? The letter M. Letter M is once in a minute, twice in a moment, and never in 1,000 years. Our new riddle that you won't get to figure out till Monday, I know you'll be at the edge of your seats, is I have hands, but I cannot clap. What am I? As always, you'll need your notebook and a pen or a pencil. Ooh, your today's notes, if you would like to title them, quarter 3 IA review number 2, 4/9/20. I did just say this, but I'll say it again. How to be successful today. There are really only two assignments. The first one is your attendance assignment, which is also your multiple choice review. For questions you got wrong, go through that and figure out which ones you got wrong. Are those natural selection questions? Are those cell cycle questions? And review those. And then the mastery assignment today is going to be the worksheet. There's only 3 questions on there. There's a couple subparts, but it's relatively straightforward, and it covers the 3 big topics we're going to talk today, which is cell cycle, natural selection, and cell types. All right, so let's jump straight into a little natural selection review. It's been since almost the beginning of the year, but I just want to remind you, natural selection is all about survival of the fittest. So the organisms that are best adapted and fit to their environment are the ones that are going to survive, first part, but we all know it's not just about survival, it's also about reproduction. So looking at this first image, we've got a hawk and some mice, and we have the dark gray mice and the tan mice. At the beginning, we have more tan mice than we have darker mice. As time goes on, we see that the darker mice are surviving and the lighter mice are disappearing. We know this is because the darker mice have a selective advantage, meaning that they are best fit for their environment. The tan mice, because they stick out and they're easy to hunt, don't have the selective advantage. And because the selective pressure, which is the color of the environment, they're the ones that are going to get eaten. Because they're getting eaten, they can't reproduce, so their numbers are going to decrease. So again, selective advantage, the organism that's best fit will survive and reproduce. Remember, it's those key things, survive and reproduce. So that's the big things about natural selection you need to know. Cell cycle. This was our most recent one. You should be familiar with both the graph and the diagram of the cell cycle. Let's start over here. Our cell cycle starts at G1, which in this image is lower, but it doesn't really matter because it's a cycle. G1 is growth. We know that our organelles are duplicating. S phase is when our DNA is duplicating. G2 is when we are preparing for mitosis and we are also continuing to grow and get larger in size. And then finally M phase, which is mitosis or cell division, when your cell is dividing into 2 identical daughter cells. I want to really push that part. It's identical daughter cells. So the same amount of organelles and the same amount of DNA. The other thing to just be mindful of is that there are checkpoints along the way. So G1 checkpoint is making sure your organelles are duplicated. G2 checkpoint is making sure that your DNA was accurately replicated. And in spindle is to make sure those spindle fibers are attached and mitosis happens accurately. So make sure you know that also 90% of a cell's life is spent in interphase, which is G1, S, and G2, and only 10% is spent in M phase or mitosis. So majority of your cell's life is going to be in interphase. The same thing, but just in a different format, is our graph. You won't have to draw a graph, but you do need to identify the different parts. G1, S, G2, M, we know that this is talking about DNA. If we were talking about total mass, it would be that straight line all the way up to M and then down. Be able to tell me like when G1 or S phase or G2 or M starts and stops. You need to be able to read the times on the bottom, which I fully prepare that you can do that. And just speak mindful of language. Is it completed a phase? So if we've completed G1, then we're going to be in S phase. If we've completed S phase, we're going to be in G2. If we've completed G2, we're going to be in M. If we completed M, we're going to be back in G1 because it's a cycle. So those are the things to remind yourself about for the cell cycle. Cell transport. This has been a while, but big things to know are there are two big parts: passive transport and active transport. Passive transport is transport when molecules are going from high to low and they do not require energy. Simple diffusion is when it goes straight through the membrane. Water can do this really easily, just goes right on through. Anytime you see, in this case it's purple, but something in the membrane itself, that's a protein. And so when you have a protein, it's facilitated diffusion. It's still diffusion because it's going from high, we have a lot out here, low amount in here, but just know if you do not need a protein, it's just simple or just diffusion, facilitated diffusion, because the molecules are slightly bigger, require a protein. The other type is active transport. Active transport requires energy in our form of ATP, and we need energy because we're going from a low concentration to a high concentration. So we're moving against the gradient. Finally, cell types. There are two big cell types we've talked about, prokaryotes and eukaryotes. You are a eukaryote because we have a nucleus, we have organelles like ribosomes, like Golgi apparatus, and we also have linear DNA. Prokaryotes, bacteria, have nucleoids, so it's not a true nucleus, and they have circular DNA, so their DNA is a circle. However, there are some common similarities between the two. Prokaryotes and eukaryotes both are cells. We both have cell membranes, and prokaryotes do have ribosomes because they do need to make proteins, but that's the only similarities that we share. Always in the way. Prokaryotes. So just real quick, a prokaryotic cell is a cell that is unorganized and doesn't have a nucleus or any membrane-bound organelles. A bacterium is a prokaryote. So bacteria, fungi, mostly bacteria we talk about as being prokaryotic cells. They are small, they have a high surface area to volume ratio, but they have in general, if you were to look at them, they have a really small surface area and a small volume because they're the tiniest of the cells. Not as tiny as viruses, but tinier than eukaryotes. And eukaryotic cells is a cell that is highly organized and does have a nucleus. So nucleus, and membrane-bound organelles, like our mitochondria and our chloroplast. Your cells are eukaryotic. So humans, plants, animals, we are all eukaryotic cells. We are larger cells. It's all relative. We're larger than the prokaryotic cells because we have so much more stuff in our cells, because we're so organized, and because humans and plants and animals are far more complex than bacteria. That's it for review. Please hop onto the Zoom call if you want all your questions answered and you want me to work through your worksheets with you. The last thing you're going to do is jump over to your IA Review OER worksheet for number 2 on Google Classroom, answer the questions, press turn in when you're completed. This is graded for accuracy, so try your best. The multiple choice is only graded for completion. There is no exit ticket today, so don't worry about that. And that is all. So as always, stay amazing, stay awesome, and stay safe and stay inside. I know it's hard. We've been at this for a month. I am really impressed with all your hard work. I see it, I acknowledge it. So just stick with it. We're all in this boat together. Have a great weekend.